In embarking upon the task of dissecting the life and legacy of Alfred the Great, one must first dispense with the notion that greatness is ascribed after the fact, a mere bauble of history polished by the hands of successive generations. Indeed, in the case of Alfred, King of the West Saxons, his epithet of great was not a posthumous garnish, but a contemporary acknowledgement, a rare feat in the annals of history. Alfred's story begins, as all stories inevitably do, with the circumstances of his birth and upbringing. Born in the year 849, in the then obscure village of Wantage in Berkshire, Alfred was the youngest son of Ethelwulf, King of the West Saxons. Unlike many of his contemporaries who were destined for the throne from birth, Alfred's early years were not marked by the grooming of a future king. Instead, his upbringing was steeped in the intellectual and religious rigor of his time, a period that saw the confluence of the waning influence of Roman Christianity and the burgeoning impact of the Viking invasions. This period, often referred to as the Dark Ages, was anything but dark in the conventional sense. It was a time of tumultuous change, a crucible in which the old world was being reshaped into something new and unrecognizable. The Viking invasions, which had begun in earnest in the late 8th century, were not mere marauding expeditions but a seismic cultural and demographic shift that would redefine the landscape of what was to become England. Alfred's ascension to the throne in 871, following the deaths of his elder brothers, was a turning point not only in his life, but in the destiny of the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. The kingdom he inherited was beleaguered on all fronts, its existence hanging by a thread in the face of the relentless Viking onslaught. It was in this crucible of crisis that Alfred's true mettle would be tested. His early reign was marked by a series of bruising defeats at the hands of the Vikings. These defeats, however, were not mere military setbacks, but lessons from which Alfred would learn and adapt. Unlike many of his contemporaries who viewed warfare in terms of brute force and direct confrontation, Alfred understood the value of strategy and innovation. His retreat to the Somerset marshes following his defeat at the Battle of Chippenham in 878 was not an act of cowardice, but a tactical withdrawal. It was here, in the seclusion of Athelney, that Alfred reorganized his forces, built a network of alliances, and laid the groundwork for what was to become his most famous military victory at the Battle of Edington. The significance of the Battle of Edington cannot be overstated. It was not merely a military victory, but a turning point in the history of the British Isles. It was here that Alfred proved not just his military prowess, but his strategic acumen. By forcing the Viking leader Guthrum to accept baptism and an agreement that would lead to the establishment of the Danelaw, Alfred effectively stemmed the tide of Viking invasions and secured the future of the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. However, to focus solely on Alfred's military achievements is to miss the broader scope of his impact. His real greatness lay not in the battlefield, but in the realm of governance, law, and culture. Alfred was a visionary in the truest sense of the word, a man who understood that the strength of a kingdom lay not just in its armies, but in its institutions, its laws, and its culture. His legal reforms, encapsulated in the Domboc, or Book of Laws, were a groundbreaking amalgamation of existing Anglo-Saxon laws and biblical precepts. This was not mere legal codification, but a moral and ethical framework that sought to bring a measure of justice and order to a society ravaged by war and lawlessness. Alfred's vision extended beyond the immediate needs of law and order. He was a patron of education and culture, recognizing that the survival of his kingdom depended as much on the cultivation of knowledge and wisdom as on military might. In a time when literacy was a rare commodity, Alfred championed the cause of learning. He initiated an ambitious program to translate key works of literature and religion into Old English, including seminal works like Boethius's Consolation of Philosophy and Bede's Ecclesiastical History of the English People. This was not merely an academic exercise, but a strategic move to foster a sense of shared identity and purpose among his people. Alfred's contribution to the English language and its literature is immeasurable. By promoting the use of Old English in literature and administration, he laid the foundations for the development of the English language as a medium of sophisticated expression and record. It was under his reign that the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle was initiated, a monumental work that not only chronicled the history of the Anglo-Saxons, but also helped cement Alfred the Great as a king of wisdom, vision, and the shaper of England's destiny.